Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to an exciting edition of How Do I Do That Anyway? Today's topic, dot plots and histograms in Google Sheets. Now, Google Sheets is a great little spreadsheet thing that will allow you to crunch a lot of numbers really, really quickly. Um, you just have to figure out the tricks to use it. I'm going to show you some of those tricks in this video on how to analyze a whole lot of data. I got about 150 numbers here that we are going to play with in order to learn how to make dot plots and histograms. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, I have this heading here that's telling me what this number is. You want all of your numbers of a particular type in a single column. So like in this case, we measure the diameter of a particular hole and everybody put a few measurements into a spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to click on the one that's right next to it, and I'm going to right click on it. And I'm going to click this view more row actions, and I'm going to freeze row one. Because what that's going to do, you see how I'm scrolling down, but I can still see my header and read exactly what that is. That's not going anywhere. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to order these things. I'm going to go ahead and order these things from the largest to the tallest. Okay, so I'm going to sort that range. But in my mind, it works better to start out at the beginning and go to the end. So I'm going to go from A to Z. So that means my lowest numbers are up here at the top. And if I scroll down the page, the numbers get progressively higher and higher and higher. Okay. So, in order to make a dot plot, you basically have to you have to make a graph, and along your x axis horizontally, you're going to have an entry for every unique entry. But you see how some of these have two entries on them? Well, you would have, instead of just one single dot for a single entry, you would have two dots, one on top of the other, for the two entries. So I need to find out exactly what data is here, what unique values are here. So I'm going to make a column just saying values. And now I'm going to have Google Sheets actually tell me what values by saying, hey, I'm going to do an equation. Let me zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see. All right. So values. I'm going to say equals, it's trying to guess what I want to do, equals unique. So I want to know all of the unique things that are in this column there. Okay, so I selected the column heading. That's why it says A through A. And now I'm going to close my parentheses. And now I'm going to hit enter. And now it's telling me all of the unique characters that are in that. Okay, so I can look down this list and I can see that there's 110-ish, because of my heading and all that, unique characters. There's 145 data entries. Okay, so that means that some of those are actually entered more than once. So I'm going to go ahead and do another one called frequency. Some people refer to this as the count. This is the number of times each one of these data or these different unique values occur. So in order to find that, I'm going to use another command. I'm going to hit my equal sign again to tell Google Sheets that I'm going to enter an equation. And it's again trying to guess what I want. I'm going to type count, but I'm going to count if. You want to say count if. And I want to count if the first thing you're going to tell it where to be counting. And then you're going to be telling it after a comma. Click here, put a comma. Then you're going to tell it what to be counting. And so there, I want it to be counting in this column. Okay. So then I'm going to close my parentheses there. Okay. So basically, what this formula is saying, it's saying to count if, count in AA, look in AA, and then you're looking for whatever the value is in C2. So that's the diameter. And so when it returned that data, it returned a 1 because there's one data point that says diameter in that whole column. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it all the way down. I'm sure there's a faster way to do this, but I've only got 150 data points, so it's not going to take that long. Drag it all the way down to copy that one formula in the entire thing. And so now it's spitting out a whole bunch of ones with some twos in there. All right, so that's my frequency. And I can look here and I can see that, hey, I've got this 0.1152, and it occurs twice, and I can see that right here. So I can check to make sure that that is in fact working. Okay, now I want to go ahead and I want to make my dot plot. Okay, so in order to make a dot plot, you want to plot out your values on the x-axis and the frequency as individual dots going up the y-axis. So I'm going to highlight columns C and D. Just click and drag across both of them. Then I'm going to come over here. Where is my charts button? There is my charts button. I want to insert a chart. Okay. And I'm going to want to find a scatter plot. I don't want a line chart. I want frequency versus value scatter chart. I'm going to click that. And unfortunately, that looks like my data. Okay. So there are a few ways to clean this up. There's some statistical ways. There's some common sense theorem ways. But for now, this is your dot plot because you have all of these values that are occurring between basically 0.11, which you would see is about ish there, all the way through 1.5. And yeah, that's the dot plot. We can go ahead and click there and say dot plot. Enter, be done with it. Okay. The next thing I'm going to show you how to do is a histogram. Okay. So when you are doing a histogram, you are trying to show your number of data points also, but you're going to show it in individual bins. So your bin size is tied to different criteria. Popular criteria are like standard deviation. Your mean is something else you should know. Median, mode, maximum value, minimum value, range. And for my assignment, when I'm first introducing this, you're going to take range divided by 7. Okay? So in order to find our standard deviation, again, you're telling it you want an equation, so hit equals, and then just start typing out standard deviation, ST, and it pops up with standard deviation is one of the things. So click it, and then you want to tell it what you want the standard deviation of. You want the standard deviation of your data. So go ahead and close your parentheses and hit enter, and it'll tell you the standard deviation. You want the mean value. So the mean is the same thing as the average. So we're going to hit equals, and then we're going to start typing in average. We're going to say average. And we're going to say of A again. That's telling me the average number. The median equals median value. Enter. The mode, most commonly occurring number. Mode of A. The maximum value equals max of A. And the minimum value equals min minimum of A. Close your parentheses. Range. This is where you start having to actually type some things in. So we need to make an equation because they don't have a function defined to find the range. So we're just going to go ahead and say equals, open a parentheses, and we know that the range is the greatest value minus the minimum value. So we're going to take that maximum minus the minimum. Close your parentheses, tells us the range. Now, this is going to be our bin or bucket size for our histogram, for our first histogram. So I'm going to go ahead and say enter to hit, or I'm sorry, equals in order to start another function. Open a parentheses, click on my range, then hit your divided by button, and then type in 7. Okay, whatever number of bins or buckets you're going to divide your histogram into, I like 7 for this initial one. All right, so that's going to be our range size. Now, we're ready to make our histogram. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to select column A because that tells it what we're going to make a chart for, and that's going to kind of narrow down the possibilities of what Google's going to show us as a possible chart. I'm going to click Insert Chart, and the first thing that's popping up is a histogram chart because that makes the most sense. So I'm going to go ahead and say yeah to that, and I'm going to click Customize. And under this, under histogram, I'm going to specify the bucket size. And I want my bucket size to be this range over 7. 0.2194. Okay, just round it to the 10,000th place. Hit enter. All right, so histogram of diameter. Already says histogram. I don't need to change anything. All right, so now I'm going to click and drag this off to the side. And now I have my histogram and I have my dot plot. If we zoom these out a little bit, you can see that both of these have one data point way out here on the side and a couple of data points getting farther away from this big mass of data. They're displaying the same thing. Now, there are ways to clean up your data so that way it becomes, it starts to follow the empirical rule and things like that, and that will be displayed in further along videos. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this helped you out.